Today's episode is an interview with Sue Paul and Michelle Fritsch, co-founders of the Medipreneurs Conference. If you are a pharmacist or a healthcare entrepreneur, this episode is for you. You're listening to the Pharmacist Voice Podcast, a journey-style podcast about my career change from pharmacist to voice actor. I'm your host, Kim Newlove. I alternate solo shows and interview shows. The solo shows are about my career change, and the interview shows feature a variety of people who use their voices to advocate, educate, or entertain. I'm a pharmacist and voice actor who specializes in medical narration and e-learning. If you want to hire me, please contact me through my website, thepharmacistvoice.com. That's thepharmacist with an S, voice.com. Thank you for joining me for episode 11. I'll give you some background on my guests, Sue Paul and Michelle Fritsch, then we'll dive right into the interview. Sue Paul is a pharmacist, entrepreneur, and small business owner with over 20 years of experience in the industry. After graduating from the University of Cincinnati, she worked in several practice settings, including community practice, nursing home consulting, and hospital. Sue founded SyneRxgy Consulting LLC, a concierge pharmacy service, and manages chronic diseases. Her practice sites include a physician's office, employer worksites, and in-home patient visits. Sue adjusts medications, educates patients, implements and analyzes pharmacogenomic and nutrigenomic patient testing, and reviews and compiles current medication lists for patients. She enjoys empowering patients to take control of their health. In 2018, Sue co-founded PGX 101 with another pharmacist, Dan Krinsky. PGX 101 offers pharmacists 20 hours of ACPE-approved continuing education and a certificate in pharmacogenomics, PGX. Since 2016, Sue has been using PGX in her clinic and with home patients to implement patient-centered medication modification in conjunction with their providers. Sue is one of 3 co-founders of Medipreneurs LLC, along with Michelle Fritsch and Anna Garrett. Metapreneurs is an international conference and community for pharmacist entrepreneurs. Current planning is underway for the 3rd annual conference. Sue is active in local, state, and national professional organizations. She is a board member of Ohio Pharmacists Foundation, for example. In her spare time, she enjoys spending time with her husband and 4 adult children, reading, walking with friends, and brainstorming with others about action plans to get from where they are to where they want to be. Michelle Fritsch is a Purdue PharmD grad with postdoc training in Madison, Wisconsin. She is board certified in geriatric pharmacy and ambulatory care pharmacy. Starting in 1992, Michelle has been a professor teaching pharmacists, physicians, nurses, physician's assistants, and physical therapists. Michelle has a passion for healthy aging and education. She is a specialist in medication use in people over 60. She founded 2 companies, Retirement Wellness Strategies and MedsMash LLC, and works with a broad definition of health: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and social. Michelle is a frequent speaker, lately on topics of safe medication use, false prevention, medical cannabis, addiction, opioid use, coordination of healthcare, retirement readiness, and the role of medication in healthy aging. As healthcare is changing, Michelle is supporting entrepreneurial healthcare providers as a co-founder of Metapreneurs. Sue and Michelle are role models for pharmacist entrepreneurship, and I am very pleased to share our interview with you now. I'm here today with Michelle Fritsch and Sue Paul, 2 of the co-founders of the Medipreneurs Conference. Welcome to the Pharmacist Voice Podcast, ladies.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Very much.
You're welcome. Absolutely. Would you mind telling me how this all got started?
I'll go ahead and take that question. So this is Sue, and what I was doing, I was trying to start my own business so that I could take better care of patients. It was not attainable for me in the settings where I was working in the nursing homes, the hospital, and independent pharmacies. I think independent pharmacies probably are the best place to launch, and I looked into that for about a year and decided not to because I wanted to go to where the patients were. And so it was kind of a unique perspective. And I was in a business mentoring group to be able to gain the skills that I could use to move forward on my business. And that's where I met Anna Garrett, another pharmacist. Most of the people in the group we were in were not healthcare people. But we were meeting, and I would reach out to her if I had questions or barriers, and she would do the same. And we were sitting at breakfast one morning and thought, I wonder if there's other pharmacists out there who are trying to create something new and unique who might need support of a community. And that's kind of where we started with Metapreneurs. So that's where it got its start. And we just kind of took that 20 seconds of crazy conversation and went forward with it.
And it was something that we saw a need that if the two of them, and then eventually myself as well, could help each other overcome hurdles, how many other pharmacists were out there seeing that the profession was going maybe in a direction that they no longer wanted to be part of, or saw ways to do things differently and could use that support to jump into new things, whether it's on the side or completely. So it was a wild idea that came out of Sue Paul's head that became a thing that has been so exciting.
It has been exciting. And I'm going to jog your memory, Sue. Do you remember meeting me at the annual meeting of the Ohio Pharmacists Association in 2017, the year before you started the Medipreneurs Conference?
I do. And actually at that time we had Metapreneurs scheduled for September of 2017 and ended up postponing it at that time also. So pivots and detours are not new to Metapreneurs.
Since you talked about that, I wanted to give you an opportunity to share about the conference, which was scheduled for April 17th through 19th, correct? And now what's going on with the Medipreneurs 2020 conference?
Sue has given it the name of the Medipreneurs Detour. And I love that because, like everyone else in the country, there are so many unknowns right now. For some people, we know that this is an especially wild time. If they're in direct patient care, our healthcare system is becoming quite saturated. We want to honor and respect that, certainly. Certainly don't want to be part of being part of the spread of the virus. So writing was on the wall. We needed to move it, but along the way, not leave people kind of high and dry with nothing. And so we've been trying to be very innovative and create this detour with a lot of what we hope will be very interesting detour stops. And actually, Kim, thank you for having us on. I would count this as one of the detour stops, as a place where people can come to get some information and kind of understand what is this Medipreneurs thing and where is it headed. But we also have some plans for things like masterminds. I think we all benefit when we can be in smaller groups and just brainstorm together. And so it's been our experience the last couple of years that people will strive to reach certain goals by the Medipreneurs Summit so that they can then share those with the other attendees and get help and hints for the next steps. Don't want to lose that momentum. So these masterminds will be an opportunity. We had just the most amazing list of speakers signed up. And so I think at least some of those will be providing some webinars so that information can be shared with people. And then I think we've got so many Medipreneurs like you who have actually done amazing things. And we want to use those to share your story, to inspire others, and again, keep the momentum going for them until we're able to find a date to come back together.
I'd love to include some of that information in the show notes. You mentioned the Metapreneurs Detour. Would you mind sharing the website that's associated with all that information, please?
It's www.metapreneurs.com.
Okay, www.metapreneurs.com. I will put that in the show notes with a link so my listeners can check it out. Thank you.
Perfect. Good.
I loved the conferences. I went the first 2 years, 2018, 2019. I was signed up for 2020. And one of the things that I loved is kind of like what you're talking about with the masterminds. You're talking about having online masterminds. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Well, I can tell you that for anybody out there that thought about going to Metapreneurs or in the future wants to go to Metapreneurs, I feel like every time I went into a classroom, it was a mastermind. I would sit down at a table. I had no idea who the people were, but they were also healthcare entrepreneurs, a lot of them pharmacist entrepreneurs, and a lot of them were just getting started. And when you share your ideas and ask for input, people are more than willing. And every hour of every day of the conference was a mastermind. You could say, hey, this is my idea. What do you think of this? And you could ask another person, another like-minded person for input for free. It was fantastic.
I think that's a piece of it. I know for myself, when you're doing something, I came from a background of academia, and when you're doing something that is outside the mold, some people will tell you all the reasons it's not going to work. But when you're at Medipreneurs, you're around people that see the possibilities. And just that mindset and that kind of support is so invaluable.
I love the keynote speaker too. Lisa Larder, for the first 2 years, was the keynote speaker. Excuse me. And she is a business coach by trade. And I had never encountered a business coach before. So you guys introduced me to the concept of a business coach. And I had been volunteering for years and years to be a keynote speaker at something without knowing it. I just thought I was giving a speech and talking to people. And she told me that's called a keynote and you can get paid for it. So I credit Lisa Larder with teaching me that I had value in what I was doing, and you could put a price tag on that. And it's okay to ask, what's your budget? Can you pay me for this? And you know what? I did. I asked the people that were putting on, it was the University of Toledo College of Pharmacy's summer camp. I said, do you have any budget for this? Can you pay me? And you know what they said? They said yes.
Mm-hmm.
So then I started getting paid. It wasn't oodles of money, but it was an appropriate and fair amount. I never thought to ask, and they always appreciated me volunteering, always invited me back. So there's nothing negative going on there at all. I think they thought that it's something I just wanted to do. But as I made my business and started that, I realized that I had value. It's something I could offer. They paid me. Happy ending. So thank you, Metapreneurs, and thank you, Lisa Larder, if you're listening.
Very good.
And that's basically the gist of Metapreneurs, empowering pharmacists to see their worth, because we have been raised and educated that we give most of our information away for free, and to see value in what we're doing, and then to take the steps to start becoming comfortable and charging for that value is what the world would be a much better place, or if more pharmacists were empowered to, de-prescribe and sit down with patients and make sure they were on the correct medicines, and educate them about other lifestyle changes that they can do, and stopping smoking, and our healthcare costs would be tremendously reduced if pharmacists were empowered to be able to do that and charge for it. And they should get paid for that type of information.
Something that came our way early on, and we knew it because we are pharmacists, but healthcare providers in general, physicians, pharmacists, are not known for being big risk takers. You're attracted to this profession because you are able to give a great attention to detail and tremendous accuracy, and you don't do things on a whim. So the entrepreneurial life for a healthcare provider can almost feel counterintuitive to all of the training that we've had along the way. And for me, that was one of the big, what's the plural of impetus? One of the big impeti of having Medipreneurs was realizing that the three of us had done this because we saw ways to do patient care in a way that made more sense to us individually in our own areas of interest. And we knew that there could be other people wanting to do that. But kind of like I said earlier, most of the messages and most of the training might be saying, don't do this, you're outside the box. And so by coming together and helping each other, we knew that there were other people out there who were ready to kind of form the next wave of what pharmacy and healthcare might look like. So it was, in my mind, a life-changing moment was at the opening reception as people were gathering at the very first Medipreneurs. I mean, we'd created this thing. We didn't know if anyone would come. We didn't know if anyone would get anything out of it. It was a total leap of faith. And the primary sponsor that first year walked in and just kind of shook his head and said he's never seen this sort of energy at any sort of pharmacy event before. And that was just amazing, amazing moment.
I love to draw parallels. And what you just mentioned reminds me of the opening ceremony of the Olympics. You know how all the countries come together, they're in their garb and they've got their flags and they're marching through the stadium on the track and they're all waving? Metapreneurs is much like that, what you just described, where we all came together for the keynote and we were all representing our various backgrounds. That's a lot what Metapreneurs is like. There are people that are interested in women's health. Michelle, what do you specialize in?
People, especially men, around the time of retirement and keeping retirement transition healthy.
And Sue, what do you specialize in?
Chronic disease state management in with the physicians and providers. And with that, we also use the pharmacogenomics to make sure patients are on the correct medicine.
All right. So we have that and that and that. And we had people that were interested in starting CBD dispensaries. There were others that wanted to become personal coaches. I can't even name all the different areas, migraine medicine, everything. And so it was almost like we all had our flag that we were waving and we're like, hey, we're proud to be here. And you guys just really got that spirit going. Like we're all here representing our various interests, but we're all healthcare entrepreneurs. It's okay to be here. It's okay to be one of these. You created a safe space where everybody could feel like what they were doing was normal. That's one of the biggest things that came out of it for me. I had this crazy idea to go into the voiceover industry, basically. And going to these conferences helps me whittle things down. It's like a funnel, like a funnel of ideas that's gradually getting narrowed down to one. So then the money can start flowing out the bottom, right? But when you were talking about pharmacists undervaluing themselves, I want to talk about that for a second because I did the same thing. I didn't know how much I was worth. And I had so many ideas when I first started talking to Sue. And I thought I was going to clean out people's drug cabinets and I was going to do one-on-one consults in homes. And when I went through the process of figuring out what kind of authorization I needed from the State Board of Pharmacy and what kind of fee schedules and advertising I would have to do, I just found that my funnel led to voiceover work. That's really what I wanted to do. That's what I was capable of. And Metapreneurs helped just by going to the classrooms, learning what people were talking about, talking to other people. But as I was having my content funnel time in my life and I narrowed it down to something, I realized that I was jumping over into a different industry, and that's okay. Some people kind of do that, like coaching, for example. It's okay to be a coach. But one of the beautiful things is that as we're dabbling or dipping our toes into other industries, some of them have rate guides. There are expectations of how much a coach can charge. Or somebody like me in the voiceover industry, there's rate sheets and it says for medical narration, you earn this much, or e-learning. But then there's all these disclaimers that say you have to negotiate individually for each client how much you're actually going to get. So if you have somebody in a bigger market or a smaller market, and just having, for me, just having some sort of a template to follow has been so helpful. So just because we're all pharmacists doesn't mean we just have to only do what pharmacists do. We can look to other professions, other industries for information. And once I had that information, I could share it with others. So when I go to the next Medipreneurs Conference, I'm going to share with people that, hey, there may not be a rate guide for what you're doing with your different part of the profession, but you know what? you can help invent the rate guide, or you can set your own rates and share them with people so the expectation is there. So I see you guys smiling and nodding your heads because this is what Metapreneurs is for, coming together, sharing ideas, helping one another be successful. So thank you for inventing this conference. I have definitely benefited. I would definitely recommend it to others.
Thank you. Something that came up last year, somebody said they had come, but they were afraid to speak about what they were doing because they said someone would steal their idea. And it led to a great discussion because we certainly don't want Medipreneurs to be that. And honestly, if every last one of us did exactly what I'm doing, helping men successfully transition to retirement while maintaining their health, that would be awesome because there are too many men committing suicide and going downhill quickly because they're not navigating to retirement correctly. And I can't reach all of them. So I think any one of us, it's not the worst thing in the world if someone says, oh my goodness, Kim, what you're doing is fantastic. Could you help me figure out how to do that way up in Washington State or someplace far, far from here? So I hope Medipreneurs is a safe space and people can be very open about what they're doing so that we can help each other avoid mistakes, kind of like you were saying, where we're on a path that wasn't going where you wanted it to, and then cheer you on when you do find your voiceover path and make sure we can do all we can to make that successful with you.
Thanks for saying that. You know, I'm one of those people that feared idea theft, and I have matured, let me just say. But thank you for saying that because I share that feeling. I thought if I stood up in front of a room and shared my idea, somebody would steal it. And let's face it, I'm not the only person in the country that's going to be able to do medical voiceover work. Now that I'm in the industry, I realize there's tons of people, and my voice is not right for everything. Some people want that regional accent. Some people want and I'm trying to think of the best way to say this. Some people want a vocal age that suits the material. If you are talking about Cialis, Levitra, erectile dysfunction drugs, you first of all want a male, and you want a male of a certain vocal age. You don't want somebody that sounds like he should be working at, Home Depot selling tools. You want somebody who sounds mature. I don't have to go on and on about that. I hope I didn't pick a bad example, but you need the right person for the job. And what I'm saying is I'm not the right person for every job. I don't know how I ever thought that, but I just want to share that because even though it's a little embarrassing and it's revealing, I've got to put it out there so other people know that, like Michelle said, idea theft is not really an issue. There are more than enough people out there for all of us to serve.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I want to ask about something happy. Can you tell me what is the best thing or some of the best things that have happened since you started the Metapreneurs Conference?
I would like to say just hearing other people's stories and seeing them find that clarity from coming to our conference and then putting it into action and seeing how that they are able to best serve patients. It's just been amazing. And whether they pivot into something that's a little bit less patient care and into something other, but just finding that clarity, moving forward with it, and seeing what their stories are creating is the most rewarding thing I've ever had. I think I said last year, I felt like we left and I had this baby and I left it at the conference after the first conference. And then the second year I come back and our baby had babies. And just to see everything evolve and kind of like the coronavirus, it was exponential. So just to see impact in the world when pharmacists do find are empowered to see their worth and then create a business out of it.
I agree. And just getting to meet all of these people. I mean, we suspected when you guys pulled me in and then the 2 became 3, we suspected there were a lot of other people out there, but then to have those people come together And this year when it happens, it will be more interprofessional. It will pull in people that it won't all be the same people. It's been exciting to watch. It's almost like watching the shackles come off of people in some instances where they were like, oh, I can't because of blah, 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 blah. And they come and they get inspired and they see that it doesn't have to be all or nothing. And they find that path to what they want to do. And then it's like they grow wings. It is the most exciting thing to watch.
That is exciting. As a conference goer, I got to say that's exciting for me too. That's motivational. And I'm cheering them on. It's like one of us has made it far. It's great. It's awesome to see. All right. Well, I'm not trying to get negative here, but I do want to know what's one of the biggest challenges you've had to overcome?
I can take that one. I know my biggest challenge is being seen. So we had to brand the conference and be out there on social media. That's not what I'm about. I don't enjoy this at all. But having to be comfortable with that and realize it's necessary in order to get the word out. Being on podcasts and LinkedIn and having to advertise and that type of thing. That has been the biggest challenge for me, being seen.
Thanks for sharing that. How about you, Michelle? What do you think?
I think it's just been a really big leap of faith for us, especially that first year when it was such an unknown. But even now, kind of where is it going? Are we taking it in the right direction? Are we reaching the right people? How do we do that? I have learned as a business owner, my own business has benefited a lot from the Medipreneurs journey. One, learning from everyone that's there, and two, learning how to build Medipreneurs. So I feel like I'm birthing twins, if you will, sort of two things going on at once, and that's been interesting.
One of the things that's interesting for me is watching your individual businesses grow, because when you started the conference, Michelle, I think you were more interested in geriatric pharmacy. And Sue, I think yours has kind of stayed the same, where you're interested in patient care at the doctor's office setting. I think, Sue, yours has blossomed, and Michelle, yours has kind of taken a pivot. So could you talk briefly about your individual businesses and how they've changed since you started the conference?
Yeah.
Yeah, Michelle, go first.
The company, when I left academia, it was to be proactive. I saw so many people, my specialty is geriatrics, and so very much people over 60. And I've always wanted to be, if you will, on the young end of that, because I've seen people have that decline that altered all of their future plans and realized how preventable that was. So I started a company called Meds MASH for mature adults safe at home, with the idea that I would be working with people in their 60s and 70s and maybe 80s, but still living in their home, still living life, and keep them there. Really delay the time that they would need any sort of assistance. Because I put the word mature in there, all of the boomers of the world rejected me. And so Meds MASH still lives, but it's their parents. So my Meds MASH clients are 80s, 90s, and 100s. And I realized I had missed the mark with that really proactive piece. And it took about 2 years of talking to audiences and trying to figure out, well, what word is okay? And retirement was the okay word. So I'm still working, targeting the same population, but with a new name, Retirement Wellness Strategies. And then being a geeky pharmacist, I had to look, well, what's happening in that retirement world? And that's where I found the boomer men that are kind of defined by their jobs are the ones that are struggling with retirement. So that is where I'm trying to focus. Like you'd said, you kind of hone and hone and hone and hone and hone. And so that's where I am at this point.
Yeah, sometimes the riches are in the niches, right?
There you go.
Yeah. And Sue, how about you?
Well, I'm fortunate where I work with a pretty progressive physician's office, and we've been able to expand my services into new areas. So back in April of 2019, we started medication-assisted therapy. And with that, we used the pharmacogenomics to make sure that the patients, because a lot of these patients have mental health issues, we make sure that they get on the right medicine to help with their recovery. So we've done that. I'm still in the throes of creating a hepatitis C pharmacist-run clinic, and then we have just started doing prep for HIV. So all these different things that they're bringing me into and allowing me to expand what we offer at our practice has just been amazing. And out of that, with the pharmacogenomics, it was funny, our CEO, it was Christmas of 2017, he said, "Did you know we're one of the only places in town that does this genetic testing thing?" And I said, "Well, yeah." And then so to be able to create PGX 101 to educate more pharmacists and providers about the benefits of pharmacogenomics has also kind of blossomed. So I do think, you mentioned the word blossom before. I do think that Metapreneurs plants that seed, and depending on how long it takes that seed to germinate, and then what kind of flower is going to be produced from it, that's kind of where I see Metapreneurs as planting that seed, watering it, giving it the environment that it needs to be able to produce that blossoming plant, flower.
Let me ask you both to please give your websites so my listeners can check that out. Sue, first.
So, mine, I have three. My physician practice or personal pharmacist practice, concierge pharmacist, is SyneRxgy.com. So www, and it's SyneRxgy.com. Metapreneurs is www.metapreneurs.com. And then PGX 101 is www.pgx101.com.
And MedSmash, the first company I started, is medsmash.com. And Retirement Wellness Strategies is retirewellness.com. So retirewellness.com.
Very good. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we wrap this up?
No, I really appreciate you having us on and allowing us to get more our word out, to kind of be able to let people know what we do and how we can help.
Agreed. We thank you. You had asked a question at one point about using our voice and what sort of voice we thought Medipreneurs had. And I've been thinking about that. I think it's a combination of advocacy, advocating for entrepreneurial healthcare providers and advocating for changes in healthcare, as well as education. I think we work hard to bring together the messages that will be important for people at all the various stages of their business. So we have a lot of people that come in that are at the beginning, and then some people who have sort of in that first 1 to 5 years, which can be challenging. So we purposefully target some things for them. And then we have things for those that are further in, and sometimes you just need a fresh look at things. And so we try to provide that as well. So I think the voices we try to share are a combination of those. So we thank you. We do hope that people hear this and want to come with us on our detour. And these are interesting times. So it might open some new opportunities for some creative thoughts and innovative new practices.
Definitely. Yes. Metapreneurs lives on, even though it's not physically happening in Cincinnati, Ohio, April 17th through 19th. Michelle Fritsch, Sue Paul, thank you so much for being on this interview today on the Pharmacist Voice podcast. Thank you for listening to the Pharmacist Voice podcast with me, your host, Kim Newlove. Please visit thepharmacistvoice.com to subscribe and read the show notes. That's The Pharmacist with an S, voice.com.